Hi friends, it's me, host Eric, host of Talking with Famous People, and I'm back with another exciting car video. This car video is about the idea of the ENTP being the most introverted extrovert. But it's also about how that plays out, I guess, or what it means to engage in introversion. So, I read that sometime back that said the ENTP is the most introverted extrovert, and I thought, well, that definitely doesn't apply to me. I'm extremely extroverted. I like to socialize a lot, yada, yada, yada. Which is sort of true. But as often happens when I hear something that strikes me as significant in some way, it percolates in my head for a few days, and I'm thinking about it without talking about it, or thinking about it in between talking about it. So, as an introverted thinker, with my judging function introverted thinking, I necessarily am going to spend a fair amount of my energy walking around doing thinking about stuff, trying to figure stuff out from a logical perspective, trying to see if stuff makes sense with other stuff. And that's obviously an introverted process. It's one by which I am doing internal judging without including the external world in any sense. I'm just in my head. So, which is where I would be in the car ride if I didn't make these videos. I'd just be doing this sort of thing in general in my head, but it'd be less organized, less well conceptualized in general. ENTP thinking is, I imagine, fairly different from INTP thinking. I bounce around all the time between things, and I don't really ever figure anything out all the way in my head. I never really figure anything out all the way until I extroverted in some sense. But I certainly do make progress ideationally on stuff. Anyway, so not that I ever figure anything out all the way, regardless. It's, it's just the nature of life that it's a limited amount of figurings. But boy, one thing I want to get behind is the notion that it may be the case that INFPs are the smartest type. The reason I say this is, I don't know if it's always the case, but for certain types, their 8 slot function seems to be much more effective in the manifest extroverted sense than for other types. Or than you'd expect. So I'm a lot more dewy than you'd expect with 8 slot SE. I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff all the time. So, and I do end up following through on things. I don't like it, really. I don't like executing ideas. But I can execute them pretty damn well as long as they're a fairly limited scope. So they don't require a lot of execution over time. INFPs, they've got some pretty goddamn amazing TI, I've discovered in general. My friend Liz, who's an INFP that I feel I know better than any other INFP, really, she's got rock solid TI when called upon to use it in certain contexts. She just never uses it when it matters. In a sense, FINE is a recipe for unhappiness. It's always ideating about how one might feel differently, or to feel better, or how a given feeling might turn out, while concurrently experiencing the weight of all those feelings real time. It must be a nightmare. I can't even imagine. But it provides them a wisdom and a depth and intelligence that you rarely see in other types. At least from my perspective. They are a supervisor type, so it makes sense that I hold them a little bit in awe. about it is, one of the things Neptune commented on this morning that was somewhat impactful on me was, he mentioned my his heaven torture video, and it impacted him in some way, enough to at least bring it up to me. And my takeaway for that is, for somebody like an FI Dom who has very intensely an awareness of the weight of everything in life, then the notion that the ability to experience weight is what precludes Eden is bittersweet. And it's because it's evidenced in that video how little I really understand FI, but I mean, the older I get, the more I feel I do understand it. I remain and was extremely impacted by the death of Schmitty Renzel, our wonderful cat that was just an amazing an outlier in every sense of the word. Just an amazing cat. Not a cat. He was a human, you know, and his death was tragic beyond all measure, really. He was me and Kim's cat, too. He was our cat. He was born around the time we got together. And that kind of heaviness in life is what makes life so scary in general. The idea that we might suffer and lose that which is precious to us. You know, Saren asked an interesting question today, which is, you know, I haven't talked to him in a while, and he's a bit of a controversial figure, I guess. But he asked, which is the worst kind of torture, FI pain or SI pain? And it's a very difficult question to answer. If you think about physical torture versus emotional torture, the taking away of everything you hold precious, or the harming of things that you wish to prevent harm towards, or people, it's just as painful to imagine as being physically tortured. And in either regard, a certain amount of SI and FI painlessness is required for normal functionality in life. You can't function normally when you're in agony. The thing is, I carry around a lot less weight in general than most people. Prior to my dog dying, I can't remember of anything truly tragic happening to me. I felt as though my first wife cheating on me was tragic, but it was just really a blow to my ego more than anything else. I didn't even like the woman. My second wife, when we divorced, that was heavy, but not tragic. It was bittersweet, you know? Lacey's death was tragic. Kitty Meow's disappearance was pretty tragic. Schmitty Renzel's death was tragic. Those things are minor compared to the kind of shit that most people go through in life. Most people go through much more deeply traumatic things than that. Kim and I were talking about how she's in kind of a rest of her life state of mourning for the life she envisioned that never came to be. One of multiple kids and being a wife to the right man and raising a family and doing all the PTA shit and all that kind of stuff. She had ISFJ dreams that never really came true. She raised Colin as a single mom. She tried to find that other man to come and be her man and start that second family and second life, but it never materialized. She wasn't touching base with the right guys, you know? She needed, well, I mean, the slabs were preserving her for me, is what I would say. Anyhow, I have to understand that I didn't just come and save the day, because she's not just comparing against the reality that would have been if I hadn't shown up. She's comparing against the reality that would have been had she manifest the life she dreamed she would. That's a little different than what I have, which is this sort of regret, or not very deep, but a certain amount of regret over all my drinking years, where I feel as though that was time wasted, and and self-unrealized. But I think for both of us, you know, our pasts are burdens the other has to help us get past. And I think we do. You know, she's an amazing woman, and we do bicker sometimes, but at the end of the day, neither of us is going anywhere. It's weird how slabby things get, you know? Kimberly and I would have ended up together when we did, found each other, and be so perfect for each other and everything. The serendipity, it defies casual acceptance. You know, you just gotta go, okay, well, what the fuck's going on here? Who's pulling these strings? Anyway, so this idea of introversion then. A lot of stuff that I share on these videos, like I said, is equivalent to my process of introversion. I might sit in the car and muse about all this stuff internally a lot, and then later on I'll extrovert it out into a video form. But the other way in which I express a lot of introversion is when I'm working on any project. So I don't consider that, and that's why I always poo-poo the idea that I would be considered an introverted extrovert by anybody. But of course, there are long stretches of time where I need to be left alone to work on music or video editing if I'm doing that, or, you know, those kind of things. Writing, whatever. And I've always considered, well, that's working time. Obviously, I have to be alone and left alone and in my own headspace for that. But it's not necessarily something an extrovert has to do. Some extroverts, their work is of a more extroverted nature. If you're an FE dummy or a salesman, when you're doing your work, it's not alone. You probably loathe all those alone times. I think ESFJ and ENFJ both loathe being alone. I don't loathe that time. I find it disconcerting if I spend a long time alone, not extroverting at all, and I'm not doing anything. As long as I'm making something, it doesn't have that depressing effect on me or drive me weird effect. Anyhow, the reason I came to this again, if I didn't mention it already, is that Kimberly noted the other day, kind of out of the blue, unprompted by me, that I was a lot more introverted than she had originally thought when she met me or expected our lives to be. That she expected it to be a non-stop filming party and everything else. And I guess I used to be a little bit more like that, but the more the environment is conducive to me successfully introverting, I guess, the more I feel comfortable spending more of my time doing that. Additionally, having a partner, having a single person be there all the time, it assuages what might otherwise be lonely or too isolated. You know, even when I'm in the middle of something, Kim will come out multiple times during the day, and I'll be, to varying degrees, responsive to her presence. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm in the middle of something. That can cause a little conflict. But by and large, of course, I appreciate her coming out, interrupting, and getting my head back grounded for a second. It helps, you know. We can all have a tendency to get lost in our most native ways to the exclusion of other things that are important that we have to attend to. Obviously, SI is something that we all have to attend to. It's not good to sit in a chair for 16 hours in a row. It's not good to be hunched over and not notice it for hours. Anyhow, that's about it for this blast of extroversion into the video camera. I hope you enjoyed this video about the ENTP and being the most introverted extrovert. And I would like to remind everybody that I do offer typing services. If you'd like to spend an hour with me analyzing your cognitive functions and stuff like that, I ask a variety of questions from different kinds of testing angles. I try to incorporate as much relevant data as I can and give you as meaningful and accurate and insightful a set of feedback as possible regarding our time together. So that's available. You can get it at the store, TwFPcollectibles.com. Or if you befriend me on Facebook, you can get a $10 discount on that. I also have a book available, Exciting Tables and Words about Human Personality. It's a PDF compilation of all my standalone documents on personality. You can get that at the store, TwFPcollectibles.com. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. And meow, the meow, 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 meow.